Hello, guys. We are back. It's me and Corinne here, the Spiritual Brujas podcast. Today, we are so glad to have Nicole, who we are interviewing, and she is just amazing. She's going to be here to tell us about herself and all that's in the works for her business, but also teach us a little bit about grief and about alchemizing the grief and all the things. And I'm really excited to have you here. I'm really excited for you to share your message because I think it's very powerful. I think that a lot of people see grief as being linear, which it totally isn't. There's so many ups and downs, and just because you're grieving today doesn't mean you're going to be grieving tomorrow. So I think it's really important to bring awareness to this and really get people to have an understanding of what it is and how you navigate through this. And if you can start by sharing your story and what led you to be where you're at right now, that would be awesome. And then you can kind of tell us about, the stages of grief, alchemizing it, and all of that stuff. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I just want to first start off with just my gratitude for you too. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be a part of your journey and your business, but also sharing grief and hopefully normalizing the conversation around loss
Yeah.
so we can help and inspire others to heal and move forward in life. So definitely excited to share my story. And I guess I'll just start with the facts. Unfortunately, my fiance passed away in a motorcycle accident last year, 5 months before our wedding. And it was so just unexpected. He was just going to go out and run some errands really quick on his bike. And before I knew it, I couldn't get a hold of him, couldn't find him, didn't know where he was. And the next thing you know, I'm in the hospital room with the doctors telling me that, there's not much that they can do to save him. He ultimately succumbed to his wounds. So it was just a really hard time, especially because, we were just 5 months away from our wedding and we were just so deeply in love. I truly believe that he's my soulmate, even to this day. And I think I'll always believe that. So, obviously losing your partner and is really hard, but, with that, it also came with grieving, not just his physical death, but grieving the life that we had together and grieving the life that we were planning to have together. And, just really understanding at some point in my journey, like, I'm not going to be able to have a family with him. I'm not going to be married and have this, like, what I would call a fairy tale ending. But, that did lead me down a journey of being more educated about what really is grief and death. And, during this journey, I realized that not only am I ignorant on how to navigate grief, but our society collectively is as well. And I started to really realize that we aren't equipped to support grievers. We're not even equipped to really help ourselves in this situation. And I don't think it's necessarily the lack of knowledge out there. Like Gabriella, you called out, there are stages of grief. There are grief counselors, there's therapists, there are people who are specialized to support folks who are navigating these types of challenges in life. But ultimately, we just aren't comfortable with death. And I think that that's just how we've been raised. I think we grow up in a society where we're afraid to talk about it. We're afraid to think about it. And I think that there is a lot to that. I think we don't want to ever accept the fact that our reality right now is going to come to an end and we'll eventually transition off into the next journey of our soul's path and our soul's growth, which is death. And so I really just started to realize, like, no matter who I talked to about it, I wasn't really getting the help that I needed. And so I just kind of came up with this whole goal of, like, well, I'm going to self-heal myself and I'm going to figure out, what do I need as an individual to navigate this new journey that I'm on. And so, I would say, man, like, really didn't get to that place until about 4 or 5 months into losing him. I had to move out of our apartment. I basically started completely over. And that's when I realized, like, this really is an opportunity for me to learn from this whole experience. And I totally believe that that's all we're meant to do in life, is to learn and to grow as individuals, so our soul can ultimately live its purpose. And I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? So that's how I stumbled upon spiritual alchemy and emotional alchemy. And that led me down this path of, like, going down this rabbit hole of, like, what does this mean? I don't even know how to cope with my feelings. And so alchemy has just been a godsend to me. I really feel like my fiance led me to this path and was like, you need to really research and understand like what this is so that you can help others. And it wasn't until about maybe 4 or 5 months, like I said, in this journey that I had a dream of him. He came to me in a dream and it was just like so real. Like I can't explain it. It was like lucid dreaming, basically. And I asked him, I was like, what am I going to do without you? You know, my identity was so tied to my partnership. We do that so innately as humans. We're like, you're my love and I only receive love from you. You know what I mean? And now what am I going to do? You're my everything. And in the dream, he told me, he's like, what do you mean? Like, you're here to help people. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean I'm here to help people? And as quickly as he appeared in my dream, he vanished just as fast. So I remember waking up crying. And it wasn't like tears of sadness necessarily. It was more like, now I'm inspired. Now I feel like I have like that missing piece to really propel me down this journey of healing. I have that insight, I have that purpose. And so what alchemy has taught me, you know, is to transform the pain from his death and all of the other pain that I've experienced from grief into my purpose. And so that's really what I want to do and help people with is like, you know, we're all going to experience loss, death. We're all going to die someday, unfortunately. That's really the only guarantee in life. So how are we going to make sure that we can equip ourselves with the knowledge and wisdom needed to manage and, you know, these experiences as healthy as possible? And so this has really led me down a path of self-exploration and individualism, and instead of going to the kind of standard that we all go to, which is escapism, right?
Mhm.
Repressing what we're really feeling.
Like push through, right?
Just push through, like ignore it, you know, and that has been something I've received a lot from folks, which is like, just move forward. Like you're just going through a rough patch. Like, and that's really not what this is. This isn't just a rough patch. This is going to live with you for the rest of your life. So we need wisdom and we need medicine to help us manage that.
Yeah, because we all know our issues live in our tissues, right? So if we don't deal with it, we're gonna have other issues that arise. So yeah,
Not just that, I mean, it's not like
people
it's
need
gonna
to,
go
Nicole.
away, you know, it's gonna come back eventually. So them telling you to push through is just, it's a temporary thing. It's not like it's gonna go away, right? It's gonna come back. So yeah,
Right.
you definitely, I love like when I went to the women's circle where I met you, I love how you said that that was like an aha moment for me when you said you made grief your homie, like you made friends with grief. And I was like, whoa, how do you do that? So I thought that was really, really cool how you said that. And can you elaborate? Like, what does that mean? How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a great question. And really, what it is just facing your ego. I think we do a really good job of living subconsciously, and the ego wants us to stay there. And until we bring forth what's in our subconscious into our consciousness, then we're always going to stay within our comfort zone. And a lot of the time, our comfort zone is to just negate, ignore, and pretend like everything's fine. And at a certain point, that's just not sustainable. It's not going to help you grow as your own individual. Like we're all meant to do that. So what I did was I basically faced all of the feelings that have come up with grief. And I think that's really important to call out to anyone who's listening, who's grieving, where it's like, it's not just grief, it's like anger, it's sadness, it's all of the above. And so what I really taught myself to do is like, okay, I'm angry. Why am I angry? What is anger? What is this anger trying to teach me? You know, where is this anger coming from? Is it even my anger? Is it someone else's anger? Right? Like really differentiating what these feelings, where these feelings are truly coming from, and why am I experiencing them? And why is this part of my own journey here? And I think part of, you know, there are multiple stages of grief. One of the ones that I find to be the most empowering is acceptance. And I think at a certain time, not only do you need to accept that this person's, you know, passed away, but you also need to accept the fact that this experience brings up a lot of buried emotions. It like your ego is like, it just comes up. And at a certain point, you can't ignore it. So instead of repressing, it really is just facing it. So that's just how I've become homies with my grief.
Putting a mirror to the face of it, right? And just being like, okay, come on, let's do this,
Let's
right?
do it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you can't change it. You can't change it. It happened. There's nothing you can do that can bring it back, that person back. So really the only path forward is to face yourself and to face a lot of the shadows.
And what I think a lot of people don't understand is the sooner you face it, like the sooner you attack it and you become friends with it, and not just friends with it, honor it for what it is, right? The sooner you are gonna get in this timeline, right? The sooner. Otherwise, it can take you 5, 10 timelines to get there. So the sooner you face it, the sooner you duke it out, you feel it, you allow yourself to just sit with it and go through the process, the sooner you're gonna evolve, you know?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I think you said that so beautifully. And I think a lot of the time we associate our ego with being a bad thing, but I think our ego really is here to protect us, but it's our job, it's our soul's purpose to understand, okay, how can I integrate the ego with my soul, with my
Right.
core spirit?
Yeah.
And
I was
that's
just gonna say that. I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah, because there's several parts to us. There's an ego, there's our soul, there's our mind, there's our heart, there's so much. And it's not just listening to one, it's listening to all of them and how they work in harmony together to get to where we need to get.
Absolutely. I think life in itself is all about integration. I think that's why we're here, is to be able to integrate every experience, everything. And all of that just becomes wisdom. And that in itself is alchemy,
Yeah.
right? Integration.
Yeah, it really does. And you always, I think I told you this, but listening to you speak that day, like you just spoke so eloquently, and I couldn't believe that this is something that had just happened a few months ago. That for me was more than validation to know that what you're doing really works, and to know that you are really here, you were really sent to be here to help others through this process. Because some people, my cousin was just telling me on Saturday, his coworker has been dressing in black every day. And so he asked her one day, why do you dress in black? And she said, oh, because my father passed away. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She says, yeah, that was in 1978. And she's been grieving. To me, it's like, whoa, how could you live that many years grieving? That's a long time. Like nobody should have to do that. So I think that's where I see you coming in. Like you could be such a force for people who have been grieving for that long, and I don't know what it is about you. I said this to Lena in our interview. I said, Nicole just has like this empathetic, angelic, aura where you just really, at least for me, that's the way it is. You bring me such calmness and peace when I spoke to you in person. I was not scared. I'm not one that usually opens up to strangers. I didn't feel judged. I just felt like it was a space where it was safe and I could say whatever I needed to say. I was going to be supported and I could lean into that. So I just think that you are really put here for this purpose, particularly.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I've never received such beautiful words of affirmation before. I'm a projector. That's my human design. So I feel really
me too.
What is with all the projectors in my life? My goodness. Lena,
you a generator?
Corinne's a projector. You're
I'm a
projector.
1-3 self-projected projector.
Yeah.
I'm a self-projected projector too, but I'm a 6 or 6.
You're 6'2". Okay. Oh my gosh, I love it.
And I'm a generator. So
And you're a
yeah,
generator.
projectors all around me.
Well, I think because projectors are supposed to help you,
Guide.
like you perspectives, like guide you through our wisdom and experiences, as long as we're invited to it, right? So Gabriella, you just saying all of that, like that makes me feel really seen and heard, and
yeah. And I'm constantly sending your videos because to my cousin Ale, who lost her dad, because I think they're very insightful. And I see you, I really do. And I can almost feel your emotion through the videos. So I think that they're really powerful. They're really powerful. I wanted to ask you, what are the stages of alchemy? Can you go over that?
Yeah, there's a lot of different stages of alchemy. Specifically with spiritual alchemy, we've got calcination, we've got fermentation. I mean, there's just so many, and I don't want to necessarily dive deep into every single one, but I think the essence of spiritual alchemy in the 7 various stages is being able to really face your ego and understanding, am I thinking and acting and moving this way subconsciously because of this is who I truly am? Or am I doing it because someone along my journey has told me who I should be? And that someone could be a family member, it could be your caregivers, it could also just be society as a whole. And I do think our society has done such a great job of programming us to work subconsciously. So we're really never going super deep and getting to what I call the magic, the essence of who we are at a soul level. So what spiritual alchemy does so beautifully is it helps us become homies with our ego so we can integrate that at a soul level. And it does such a great job of burning away, like, purifying the parts of us that we've identified with for so long. For example, I've had so many people reach out to me and be like, I can't believe like you've progressed so much during this, journey. I would have been depressed. I would have been this, I would have been that. Maybe they just don't see those sides because I don't always post that. But what I think is important to call out there is that I choose not to be a victim, and I think we get really caught up in this victim mentality because the world is tough and we blame the world, we blame everything around us instead of actually facing what's going on inside. And so that's something that I'm pretty proud of, like being able to look at myself and being like, this actually really isn't me. So who is Nicole at her soul level? And that's where you really do that deep, deep inner work. And even in that self, you have to grieve so many things. I've had to grieve the versions of me that just aren't actually aligned with who I truly am authentically. And I think the beauty of alchemy is that it is cyclical. It's here to teach us that life, time, space, healing, none of that is linear. It's non-linear. It is cyclical. So you are going to go through these stages, but you might bounce back and humble yourself a little bit because you're going to be like, oh shit, maybe I didn't really work on that as much as I thought I did. And so, what's also really great about alchemy too is that as you start to integrate into this wholeness, into this oneness, right? That's where you start to really transform into your truest authentic version. And that's something that I try to bring into my content a lot, is not just like the authenticity of like who I am and what I'm truly feeling. It's showing people that like authenticity isn't just like characteristic traits of who you are. Like I like to wear pink. That doesn't necessarily make me, that's not really necessarily my authenticity, right? Authenticity is me speaking my truth and truly believing that that is the truth.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think oftentimes what I've learned is even in my own shedding of my own skins, right, is realizing that you really have to leave behind your old life in order to live your new one. And that doesn't necessarily just mean what I'm saying in content, right? Life. It means comfort zones. It means friendships. It means relationships. It means, expectations, all these different things. And with that comes grieving, right? With that comes grieving all these I'm currently going through separation and it's interesting because you think you're ready for something and then it happens and you're like, oh wait, why are these emotions coming up? I was ready. And anytime you have expectations, you are going to be disappointed, right?
Ugh.
So it's best to go in with no expectations and just allow yourself to feel whatever it is you feel. And sometimes I feel like you have to go back in order to propel yourself forward. Somebody the other day was was giving a perfect analogy about, going back and I think they were talking about manifestation, and they were saying in order to properly manifest, you
Yeah.
have to go back, like way back, to heal all those different versions of yourself, like lots of inner child work. And he said, think of it like a bow and arrow. The
Oof.
further you pull back, the farther you're going to go forward. And I just thought that was really powerful. That is really powerful because after listening to that and thinking about it, yeah, absolutely. I've had to go back because the shame, the guilt, the uncomfortableness, the lack of confidence, that's not from right now. That's from way back.
Ugh.
That's from way back. So you have to go back to give that individual in that moment what they need, whether it was a hug, whether it was validation, whatever it was. And that doesn't just happen once. That
No.
happens over and over and over and over. And even now, like they say, you know, what we're going through right now, what we're grieving through right now, who we're becoming right now, we will soon have to leave that person behind too. It just happens so many times, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, although it's uncomfortable and very, very difficult, you know, because I think so many of us just want to get to where we think we're going. And also, you think you're going to get to where you're going, and you think you're going to get there and everything's going to be magical. It's really not what it's all hyped up to be, right? There is still struggles within those struggles. So I think that the sooner we understand what grieving is and the stages, and learn to really, I would say, not be scared of it, right? Not be scared, and honor it and give it what it needs. Essentially, that's what you have to do, is give it what it needs. Feed it what it needs to be fed in order
Yes.
for you to be able to move on.
That was so well said. And I just want to add that, you know, there are so many different modalities out there. Like even the stages of grief, there traditionally were 5. And recently now there's been 7. And I find myself like aligning a little bit more with the newer method, which is, you know, I think it's basically you go through shock, denial, then you go through like bargaining, then you go through depression and anger, and then you reach this testing and acceptance phase. And the reason why I like the last 2 stages the most is because it kind of like calls out a little bit what you said, Gabriella, where it's like we have to test and figure out like what really works for our own healing. And I think societal like hierarchical beliefs is like there's a one fits all standard for everything in life. Like you got to work a 9 to 5, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got, and that's just not going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
I think being able to test and figure out, okay, who am I? What actually is going to work for me is so critical to our healing journeys. And then accepting the fact that like we aren't going to stay in that, you know, mindset all the time. We are going to need to go back and uncover and face those shadows and cast light onto those shadows so that we can bring that into our consciousness and be more aware. You can't heal if you're not aware. Like you just can't. It's like, it doesn't make sense, you know? So
Self-awareness is definitely key. And I think what I've learned is I need to stop asking myself, what if, right? Because the what if doesn't exist. You know, what if it does? What if it doesn't? Essentially, what I've started asking myself is choose your hard, because everything in life is going to be hard, right? Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Staying in this relationship is hard. Leaving is hard. Okay, but ask yourself, in 5 years, if I stay in a relationship that I'm not happy in for five more years, what am I gonna be like in 5 years? Oh, I'm gonna be exactly the same, right? What am I gonna be like if I leave? Oh my gosh, my life is gonna be so different. Both decisions are very, very hard. And I've really stopped asking myself, what if this happens? What if that happens? More like, okay, yes, I just got to choose my hard. Which hard do I want? Because no matter which one I choose, I'm going to be stuck in this darkness. I'm going to have to go through this darkness, whether I choose to make the darkness longer or shorter. That's up to me. That's what I get to choose. I think that has been very, very powerful for me. And just doing it, I do it on a regular basis, because every day new challenges come up, right? And I'm triggered and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, this is so hard. I think I want to stay in this comfort zone, you know, because this is safe, that I feel safe. Even though it might not be safe, this is where I feel safe because I've been here for so long. And it's harder for me to leave or move out of this comfort zone. And just reminding myself that the only one that can change my life is me. And I need to choose me for me. I need to stop choosing me for somebody else, and really, really make my happiness a priority, right? And stop sacrificing my happiness for somebody else's complacency, you know, for somebody else, just so they feel safe and okay. That's not going to happen. And yes, it's going to be hard. Everything in life is hard. But this hardness is what gives us the wisdom, as you called it. This is where we learn the lessons. This is where we get wise. And this is how we show up for ourselves as ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Something that I really resonate with what you just said is choice. And, I've posted a couple times on my Instagram, the Alchemist Babe 11, are showing my followers, like, my community, like, we have the power of choice. Like, we're blessed with free will. And ultimately, any choice you make, there will always be implications. There's always going to be unintended consequences to whether we choose the right thing or the perceived bad thing. I use quotations because everything's perception, right? It's really up to us to define what is good or bad. But my point to this is that, I have received pushback from people where it's like, well, I didn't have a choice on whether or not I was abused or, whether or not they died. Of course, that's not what I'm saying in this term. What I'm saying is, like, you now, who have, as an adult, who has gone through these experiences, you have the autonomy to make that choice. Now, I know that's a very privileged thing to say because, let's face it, there are victims out there who don't have a way out. But if you have that privilege and the resources and that ability to do that, why wouldn't you make the choice to heal? It's all about the power of choice. And to me, I think it's almost like you're not expressing your gratitude to the universe, to God, to source, whatever you call it, if you're not making that choice. We should wake up every day grateful that, like, we can make choices.
Yeah.
And that's just my perspective. But I appreciate people challenging my wisdom here. But at the end of the day, like, if you have those resources, and that if you get to wake up every day and choose what you want for breakfast, then you best believe you get to be able to choose whether or not you want to heal and live a fulfilling and peaceful life. That's your choice.
Right. And I think that you're right. I think being a victim has been normalized for so long that that is what a lot of people choose. And I see it as, I, Corinne, everybody has been through difficult things, right? And you always have a choice. You always have a choice. You have two choices. I always say, you have the choice to stay exactly where you're at, or you have a choice to keep going and choose to do things differently. And it might not feel good. It might not feel great. It might not be something that makes you feel good, but staying where you're at isn't going to change your outcome. And victimizing yourself, feeling sorry for yourself, or staying cooped up in that depression is going to keep you in survival mode. And you are basically just living. You are not alive. Alive is choosing to do things differently.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that seeing you and seeing how fast you've moved through this, healing through this, and being able to share your story and be vulnerable really speaks volumes to the capacity you have and the wisdom you hold. It's so, for me, it's just something that I can't even put it into words. I really can't. And I don't know what it is, the connection that I feel to you. I told Lena this too. I just think it's something that really needs to be there. There has to be awareness that comes to these issues, because so many people, especially young people, commit suicide because they're stuck in this victim role. And if there were more people as yourself to share, that there is another way. And if you just take it one day at a time and put one foot in front of another every single day and take these tiny little steps in the right direction, I promise you that, you too will be able to shine your light, right?
And that is ultimately my whole goal of sharing my story. It is not to show people that this is the right way. I just want to show people what's possible. And I want people to also feel empowered to understand, like, who am I, and, like, what do I need? Grief is such an individual experience. We're all going to grieve differently. And I think, there needs to be some compassion for some folks who stay within their victim mindset, but we also need to support them by pushing them a little bit. I think sometimes a little bit of tough love can go a long way. And I think, showing people that there are alternatives, that there are resources, that there's support groups, like whatever you need. And, I'm never going to tell anyone like you shouldn't go to a therapist or a grief counselor. I've done all of those things myself, but ultimately, like, I feel like what has helped me the most is taking that knowledge that I've learned from them, but being able to transform it and align it with who I am and what I need to heal. And that's, again, the goal of sharing my stories. I just want people to feel inspired to heal however that, and figure out whatever that looks like for them.
Can you share what are the tools that you use as far as modalities or techniques and somatics, whatever it is that you use on a regular basis to help with your mindset work?
I would happily love to share that. And one thing that I've learned is that, like, for example, in Chinese medicine, they believe that grief is stored in the lungs. Now, unfortunately, I have been dabbling in some tobacco and things like that, which I don't recommend. I think that that's also a form of repression. But what I have found as alternative medicine is, for example, like breath work. Breath work has been such a huge thing in Gabriella and the women's circle for grief, and using alchemy to navigate it. We did that breath work to ground ourselves. And that really helps us get back into our body. Because I think when you're grieving, it's so easy for us to, detach ourselves. Again, that comes from programming. So it's easy for us to be detached and dissociate, but breathwork really forces us to get back into our body, and help alchemize what's already stored in our lungs and release it. Every inhale you take, every exhale you exude. I don't even know the word to say. Helps release that and alchemize it. And something that I've always loved to do is sing. Singing is an incredible way to get grief out of your lungs. There's so many like tribes and even ancient civilizations have used song to honor their dead, and also to help them process and to kind of almost spiritually like connect with their dead, while also spiritually connecting with themselves and releasing that grief that's stored in the lungs. I think dance is so therapeutic. I grew up dancing as well and love dancing. And I think just moving your body, and Corinne, like you called out, like issues are stored in our tissues, right? So we really have to work out those memories that are stored in our body. And those are just a few examples. But I think what's super important for me as a projector is talking about it. Talking about it has been the most alchemizing thing. And I don't mean talking about like the sad parts of grief necessarily, although I think that's important. I think it's more talking through with myself, whether it's I have like a voice memo and I'm just literally talking to my phone, or maybe I'm writing something down. Just talking to myself about like, hey, like, why did I experience this? Why did this happen to me? What can I learn from it? Talking to myself about how I'm feeling today and what do I need to give myself today? I think giving yourself whatever you need based on wherever you're at is going to be the most helpful. And I want people to know that it's okay if you want to just stay in bed all day. It's okay that you don't have to go back to work. Like, it's okay to take time off. It's okay to like travel. Like, you can do anything while you're going through this. There's no right or wrong way. And that's something that's been super helpful for me. It's just that reframing, that mindset shift.
Yeah, I think on Saturday when I was with my cousin, she said something that really struck me. She said, I feel guilty for being happy sometimes. She said, for being happy, that I'm having a good time or whatnot, and my dad isn't here. He's not here to enjoy it. She says, I feel guilty. And there's moments where I feel like I shouldn't be happy, or I shouldn't. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. I said, why would you feel that way? Wouldn't you think your dad would want you to be happy? I think he would. I don't think he would want you to be sad all the time. So it's just really interesting. And I did tell her, like, I could not put myself in her shoes because I have yet to lose any of my parents, so I can't imagine what it's like. But just really trying to learn whatever I've learned from you and watching your videos and stuff, really just trying to talk to her about it, I thought was really helpful for her. And I did share your profile with her, and I told her, just watch the videos, if you don't want to reach out, just watch the videos. I said they will kind of help you put things in perspective and see things maybe through a different lens, or, maybe some of the modalities will help you process or even get through just a moment where you're having a moment.
Yes, yes. I think reframing is really key. I think what I mean by that is I feel those feelings all the time. You know, I just recently went to Hawaii with my best friend and her family and her partner, and I had such a great time. But my fiance would have loved to be there. He loved the ocean. He loved tropical wet, like he loved it all. Like, and he would totally fit in with the culture there. Everyone's so great and so nice, and he just would have been having a blast. So of course there are going to be moments where I'm like, ugh, like I feel like an asshole kind of because I'm doing this thing without him.
Mm.
But something that's been really helpful for me is thinking of it more as ways to honor him. And
Mm.
if I don't live my life, then his death would be taken in vain. And that is not something that he would ever want for me or any of the people that love him to death. You know, and I think the more we can reframe it to be like, this is a way for me to live my life while also simultaneously honoring this person that I love so wholeheartedly and almost bringing them back into life through these experiences. Like we get to live for them. And that's been a really powerful mindset of mine. So when I went to Hawaii, and Gabriella, I'm sure you've seen my videos. I did a grief ceremony for my fiance months ago. I did another one at the ocean, and I just released a flower, and I just, you know, prayed, and I let him know, like, hey, like I'm doing this not just for you, I'm doing it for myself, you know, and I know that you'd be proud of me, and I know that I'm proud of myself, and I shouldn't ever feel like I can't live life just because he's not here to live his anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's very, very true. You know, and wherever they are, I think they want anyone who has passed would want their family members to be happy. Why would they want anything other than that? You know, and I told her, I said, you know, why don't you do some meditating and try to see if you can channel your dad, you know, and see if he can send you a message. Ask him and ask your spirit guides to send you a message to see what he
What?
wants and what he how he feels about the way you're processing this. I said, and maybe you'll be surprised.
Oh
She's
yeah,
like, oh, that's a really good idea. I said, yeah, try to sit there and just talk to him and say, you know, I would really appreciate it if you can send me a sign. I said, and look for angel numbers, look for quotes on the freeway, whatever it is. I said, you will know when you see something, you will know that the message was from him. I said, and I just know this because I've asked for messages so many times, and you are just called to that. You know,
totally.
I gave a very good analogy or example the other day with I went to see Isla, and we were doing a cutting, yeah, she's magic. We were doing a cutting cord ceremony, and you know, then she said we're gonna go walk around the building, and I said okay. She's like, just tell me if you notice anything. So right when we were walking around, it was 4 different times I saw 222, 222, 222, 222, three, you know, 3 2s. And I was like, there and there and there. And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, that's crazy. And I was like, yeah. I said, what does that even mean? And she's like, I don't know. Let's look it up. And it was just validating the questions I had asked, right? Just saying there's going to be change, there's new beginnings, there's clarity, there's this coming. And it was just, it was amazing. It was amazing the way I noticed them because I'm always so distracted. I'm never paying attention to what's going on or what numbers are being shown because I'm just all over the place. But it was interesting that in that moment I was able to catch all of that and see that and truly, truly felt like my guides were trying to tell me something. If I needed validation, there it was. And I
Oh,
don't know why we need so much validation. I asked the other day, I think I was talking to my cousin Marissa. It's like, why do we need so much validation? You know, because we have an intuition that can guide us, which we can listen to, right? But then we have life coaches that also are telling us the same thing our intuition is already confirming for us. And then I go and still get tarot readings, which is telling me the same thing. And I'm like, and why? And I'm like, and then they do the tarot readings, and I'm like, yeah, I already knew that. And I'm like, and they're like, okay, well, what else do you need? You know, and I'm like, I don't know. Why do I still feel like I still need validation from another source?
Right.
And
resonating.
it's just interesting the way we work, you know, we're such intricate human beings. And
100%.
I just think this whole spiritual journey has been amazing, and getting to know people like you. I mean, Corinne, I've known forever, but getting to know people like you and Lena and Isla just really help, how can I put it, feel like I'm connected to a group of women that just understand and get you. And they're not like, oh, well, do you believe in that? Do you believe in this? You know, my mom's always saying, why are you doing that astrology stuff? Why are you doing those cards, you know? Do you believe in that? And I'm like, yeah, I do believe in it. So
Right.
it's whatever floats your boat, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. And that's really, this whole stuff, the spiritual stuff has really got me through a lot of difficult situations that unfortunately for me, therapy didn't really do that. So it's
Sure.
really whatever works for you. Some people talk therapy works really well for me. That didn't really, it helps in the sense that you get to say get off whatever's on your chest, but it doesn't it didn't help me resolve anything, where these modalities and techniques have really helped me move through things, and not only move through them, but go back and deal with the shame, the guilt, the
Right.
grief that comes with all of this self journey, healing journey.
And I think spirituality is such an expansive thing. It encompasses so many things. Whereas, we've been taught that there's only one way to do something. And that could not be further from the truth. It could be that it's a combination of talk therapy and yoga and, I don't know, like breath work and tarot.
Dance, yeah, all kinds of stuff.
It could be all of those things. But I think spirituality pushes you towards transformation, and 222 on the clock right now, which is interesting because
I just
Yes.
saw that.
really cool. I love that. One other thing I want to share about my story, if that's okay, is that death is not the ending. And I think what losing my fiance has taught me, I mean, there's many lessons to loss, but I think one of the most powerful ones has been that sometimes things have to die for other things to be born and to be brought into this world. And I really have gone through this transformative journey where I'm rebirthing myself, because like I mentioned before, we do, when we go through this significant loss, it is traumatic and it's another trauma that we're going through, and that can bring up all the other traumas that you've gone through, all the other wounding, right, that you need to heal from. And I think if I hadn't have gone, I haven't experienced this, then I wouldn't have really faced parts of myself that I was too afraid to face before. But there's so much wisdom in medicine and facing those things like we talked about. And I think spirituality has been such an important part of this journey for me, because it allows me to be expansive. It allows me to evolve into the various, versions of myself. Who knows? Like maybe 5 years from now, I'm not really talking about grief anymore. Maybe it's talking about something else. And I think that that's okay. I think we're allowed to shapeshift. I think that's actually
Yeah.
in the energy, but
Mhm.
we're forced through our programming to believe that we have to stay stagnant and be comfortable. And I'm so tired of my ego telling me that I need to be this, because I'm not. I am this like expansive being, as we all are. So yeah, I just think transformation, rebirth is such a huge part of loss and death, but also part of healing, and spirituality is such a great way for us to start doing that.
Right. And sometimes I think that we have to be put in difficult situations in order for us to deal with a lot of stuff that we try to avoid. At least in my case, I feel like that is the case, you know. I'm the type of person that pushes through. That's what I've been taught. Push through, get over it. Your kids need you. You have 4 kids to feed, you know, you got to just keep going. You don't have time to be sad. You don't have time to give yourself 2 days off and cry about it, right? You just have to keep going. And this whole spiritual awakening has really taught me that that's not true. My sister moved away almost a few months back. She left in May, and I cried so much. And I would sometimes laugh because I was like, I can't believe I'm crying this much. It was like she died, but she was also like my ride or die. She lived a couple hours away. She now moved to North Carolina, which is on the other side of the country. And she had her first baby, which made it worse, right? Because I'm not there. I don't get to see the baby. I don't get to be with her on this journey. And I cried so much. And I remember my mom telling me, Gabby, the kids can't see you like this. You have to push through and come on. She's like, snap out of it. That's what she told me, And I remember wiping my tears and being like, she's right. And then I was driving back and I was like, I called her back. I was like, Mom, I don't have to. I don't have to snap out of it. I said, I'm sad. I'm really, really sad because Natalie's leaving. I said, and I just can't contain myself. I said, I have to let this out. I said, I don't care if the kids see me. It's okay for them to see me cry because my sister's moving away and I'm sad. There's nothing wrong with that. I said, so please do not tell me again to snap out of it. I said, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay. But I need to go through this right now. And I need you to let me go through whatever it is I have to go through to get over it. But I promise you, I'm going to be okay. And she was like, okay, okay. She was kind of like surprised and shocked. And that was the first time I did something like that. But I've always been taught to snap out of it. Your kids need you. You have to go to work. You have to keep going. You don't have time to stop and deal with that. And that is what has caused all the trauma, right? All the pain, all the guilt, all the shame, all these emotions have been from a little girl being taught that my purpose in life is to grow up, get married, and have kids. And that's it, to provide, be a provider for my kids and my husband and serve them. And this whole journey has taught me that, hell no, that is not my purpose in life. That is not my purpose. That might be somebody else's purpose, but that is not mine. Mine is something totally different. And I am here to bring awareness to women that feel like that is their purpose. I am here to be, to serve to the collective and serve to my community of women that feel trapped.
Yes.
That don't know who they are without the mom. I'm here to teach them that you can be somebody who you can be whoever you want to be if you remove the mom from your identity, because we get trapped in that identity. Like you said, you got trapped in the identity of
your
this is
marriage.
who I am with him. Who am I without him? I don't want to know. That's scary, right? And I was recently asked that question just a couple weeks ago. Who are you when you remove the mom? And I was like, oh shit, I don't know who that is. I don't know, and how do I answer that? Yeah,
Wow.
who are you? So that's been really, really powerful for me, and being able to dive deep into my grief and learning to alchemize my grief. But I had no idea of this stuff until I went there, and I was not going to go that day. I was not going to go that day because I thought, this is about grief. Like, why am I going to go? I haven't lost anyone. But I was really pulled to go. I really wanted to go. So I went, and I was listening to my intuition. And I'm so, so glad that I went, because I learned a lot. And I learned that you don't have to lose somebody to grieve, that you can grieve all the different versions of yourself. Grieve a marriage, grieve kids going to college. That's something else I'm grieving. My kids are going to be going to college, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. All of these things are real. We've just been taught that it's not a big deal.
Yes. Like we're even taught to push everything in the back burner. And, I just think that self-discovery is something that we are going to face at some point in our lives, whether it's forced through choices that we didn't get to choose. Like I obviously had no choice in my fiance passing away so suddenly, or, we just, along our healing journey, we just naturally, organically come about having to, connect with ourselves. And I'm still really close with my fiance's cousin who has his goddaughters. And I recently saw them the other day, and I just, she was sharing some things with me, and she's being very vulnerable with me. And I just remember something that she brought up was just like, I've never had to take care of me. Like it's always been about my kids and about the men that I was with. And I just remember telling her, I was like, no one ever said that you have to do either or. No one said that they were mutually exclusive. You can still discover who you are while still being an incredible mom that works really hard to provide for her family. It's not either or. And I just remember her thinking herself, like, what? Like, I don't even know how to go about that. And I was like, and that's what you need to figure out. And that's part of your healing journey. That's part of you becoming who you truly are outside of the roles that you've been taught to be. And it's tough. It's tough.
It is. And there's still so much conditioning that's out there, right? There's just so much of it. And for me, I think what I think my purpose is to make sure that I break those chains of conditioning for my kids and that they know that, and they know, especially my girls, they're such, strong, independent women and that they know that they under no circumstances have to settle for anything.
Yeah.
They can do anything they put their minds to. And I think having me as an example for that, to show them that it doesn't matter what your past holds, you are able to recreate yourself and be whoever you want to be, given whatever circumstances were in your past.
Absolutely. And I think we're taught that like that is only for a certain, like it's only for a special group. It's a very exclusive thing. Like when you think of like celebrities, we put celebrities on a pedestal. But like if you look at people like Rihanna, she started as a musician, an artist. Now she's like this badass business mogul. She's a designer. She's all of these different things. And so
Yeah.
why are we always so quick to believe that that's only for a special group of people? I think that that's just bullshit.
Like it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Like I'm not just an ordinary person. I'm Nicole Foray and I'm going to be whoever it is that I need to be at any point in time in my life. And I think, Gabriella, like you being a generational breaker of that curse and that trauma and being that example for your children, I mean, that's part of your purpose, like you said. And I think a lot of us are on that journey. I know I definitely am, where it's like, I don't want to take on the trauma and the pain from my family, my ancestors. I'm here to actually understand what those curses are so that I can break them, because I don't want my children to ever feel like they need to be in a box, and they should never carry anything that is truly not theirs to carry. It's just not fair.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's really cool to see my older kids speak about these things, constantly telling me, "Oh, you're just projecting what you feel." And it's really cool, and those moments I can't even argue with them because I'm like, you know what, they're right. Because I still have so much conditioning. They don't, but I do. And there's so much projecting going on. There really is, but it's really cool to see that. I wanted to share a quote with you because you said what you were just talking about that I sent to Corinne this morning, and I thought it was really cool. It says, "What if maybe we're bigger than we think we are? Remember, trees don't hang around with the grass, even though they all started in the same place." So it's really about, even though we all came from the same place, that doesn't mean we are all exactly the same, and we all have to end up exactly the same, right? We, again, have the capacity to recreate ourselves. It's really up to us to learn how to do that and learn the tools to be able to do them. And a lot of these tools are free, the EFT, the meditating, that there's so many resources out there. It's really just about us learning and wanting to do it and making the time, making it a priority in our life to do these things for our greater good. And we don't have to be in a category with everyone else just because we came from the same place. And my coach has told me, for me, that is what sets you apart from everyone else, right? What she says sets me apart from everyone else is that, because I sometimes doubt, I'm like, oh, how am I going to be this amazing life coach, and how am I going to do these amazing retreats? Like, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And she's like, well, you know what the difference between you and all of those people are, is that you have been through hell and back, and the one thing that you've never done is quit. You have never quit. She said, so that is what is going to set you apart from everyone else. And that's why you are going to make it, because you don't know how to quit. And that has really stuck with me. And I am here to tell you, Nicole, that is what sets you apart from everybody else, is that you didn't quit, that you kept going. And not only did you keep going, you are now serving as a vessel for others going through something very, very similar. And you are here to shine your light for others to shine theirs. You really, really are.
Oh, this is like better than therapy. Like, I love that. Thank you. I'm so honored to receive such beautiful words. I really can't thank you enough. And I just know that if you can see that, then others can too. And, not that I need that validation from anyone else, but sometimes it doesn't hurt to hear it,
Of course,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
it means you're making a difference. And that is what essentially drives us, right? To keep doing the work that we're feeling seen.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. And I don't know really what the next 5 years will bring me, but what I do hope is that I can continue to make an impact through, talking about my story. And something that comes up a lot for me when I meditate is I get like these, I'm sure you all do too. Sometimes you get like little visions, right?
Mhm.
Kind of like messages from your guides. And so I see myself on a stage just like talking to people. And yes, definitely sharing my story. I don't want a trauma bond with
Right.
people. I want to show
Right.
people that it is possible to integrate this experience into your life. And these are the ways that I've done it. Now let's discover ways for you to do it. What works for you? And I see myself talking publicly about that, and see myself starting a podcast where I get to talk about, spirituality and spiritual alchemy and what it means to be a true alchemist, because we're all alchemists. That's again not exclusive. We're all able to transmute emotions, transform into all the beautiful versions of who we are. And I definitely am excited because, I've started to write a book. And the next few years, find a publisher, and I can call myself an author, and that's something I'd be really proud to do. So I think like the next 5 years for me, as I continue to heal on this journey and go through this journey, is to serve others through different mediums. I don't want to stay stuck on Instagram,
Yeah.
but I do want to expand outside of grief too. I don't want to be known as like the grief coach or the grief counselor. I want to be known as Nicole, someone who's, like you said, a vessel to show people that casting light on shadows is so key to, becoming the person that you truly are meant to be. So you just saying that to me, hopefully that 5-year plan really does manifest. I believe it will. So
Awesome. And in closing, I was actually going to ask you what your 5-year plan was. I was like,
felt
where
like
do you
it was
see
good.
yourself in 5
It was
years? But you just said
5 years.
on a
Yeah.
stage with a book,
Yeah.
in a suit.
In a like a power suit, but it has to be pink. Like it can't not
Yeah.
colorful.
I totally think that's possible. I totally see you like that. I think you will do that. I really, really do. And I want to thank you for being on with us. It's been an honor to have you here. Like I said, you guys are goddesses, and we're all here to support each other. I think that's really important to say, because there's so much competition out there, and that's not what we're about. We're here to help other people rise as we rise. And I think that's really important in this community, is to support each other and cheer each other on and be happy for others' triumphs, and share all the positivity with each other. So thank you so much for being a guest. It was amazing talking to you, and I really hope that anyone who's out there who's going through a difficult time, whether you've lost someone or you've lost yourself, I think Nicole can truly help you go through the stages of grief and help maybe facilitate some of these tools and modalities for you to progress faster through your timeline. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Corinne.
Can you share, Nicole, how people can reach you and how they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is called the alchemist babe _11, all lowercase. There. And yes, again, like it's all about creating community around grievers, showing people what's possible, inspiring them to heal on their own and figure out what that looks like for them. So I hope you check out my page. And I just want to express my gratitude to both of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to reshare my story on a medium like a podcast. And I'm so grateful for this and for your time. And I'm excited to hopefully, continue to connect with both of you and community at large.
And we'll have you back in 5 years.
Can't wait.
Your book.
we'll see a little regression and see what is.
Yeah, to promote your book and your tour.
It'll
on
be
stage.
sooner than 5 years. It's not going to be 5 years. We know that.
I think so too.
I have a
So
feeling
too.
you are absolutely right. Thank you for that.
You'll be
Okay.
back on sooner than you know it. But we appreciate Nicole, and thank you so much. You're definitely a light to be shining bright, and we appreciate everything you do. So thank you for being on here. It was a pleasure having you, and knowing and meeting another projector is always a great thing. So we'll have to connect offline and
For sure.
share more stories and everything. So it's great. I love it. So
I love
thank you everybody for tuning in, and we're glad to have you here today with us, and Nicole and Gabby and everything. And we appreciate everyone being here and joining us on today's podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.